This presentation is going to go over some nutrition basics and the basis for flexible dieting and if it fits your macros, which is all you're going to need to utilize Nutrition's diet logging capabilities. So first off, we're going to look at calories and macros, define them, and describe them. So your body requires a certain amount of calories to maintain a weight. In general, if you eat less than you require to maintain, you're going to lose weight, and if you eat more, you're going to gain weight. The number of calories in a food is primarily determined by the composition of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and fiber in the food. I track fiber separately from carbs, and we'll go over that later. A gram of protein and carbohydrate each contain 4 calories. A gram of fat contains 9 calories, and a gram of fiber contains roughly 2 calories. And these together are what we're going to call macronutrients or macros. Your body doesn't work on a 24-hour cycle. There isn't much difference between eating 2,500 calories 2 consecutive days or eating 2,000 calories on one day and 3,000 calories the next. Next thing we're going to go over is if it fits your macros or flexible dieting. And that's just a way to approach food intake based on goals. So put simply, you start by estimating the number of calories you require on average each day to achieve your goal, whether that goal is gaining, losing, or maintaining. Then you determine the minimum grams of protein, fiber, and fat, and maximum grams of carbohydrates. So in general, for weight loss, protein should be set to 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of lean body mass, and fat should be set to 0.4 to 0.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. Fiber should be set to around 25 to 30 grams for women and 35 to 40 grams for men. Nutrition does all of these computations for you and updates your target macros and calorie requirements every time you update your fitness goal or make an update to relevant metrics. So you don't have to worry about setting this stuff all the time, because as your weight goes up or down, your macros are going to change. But you don't have to worry about that, and Nutrition takes care of all of that for you. So the next thing we're going to go over is weighing everything in grams. So the first thing you need to be familiar with is reading a nutrition label, and you have to own a gram scale. So it's pretty simple. All you have to do is look at the serving size, and the gram weight is usually in parentheses right here. So on this one it's 77 grams. And then you just look at, well, for every 77 grams of whey that you use here, you're going to have 60 grams protein, 10 grams carbohydrate, and 0.5 grams of fat. So all you'd need to do is put your shaker cup on your gram scale, add the desired amount, and for every 77 grams of whey you add, just like we went over, you'd have 60 grams protein, 10 grams carbs, 0.5 grams fat. You're going to have to weigh everything in grams. Don't use measuring cups, teaspoons, or anything which is based on measuring volume. If you can, always use mass, and that would be the gram weight. Don't do like a quarter cup. Make sure you get the gram weight. Just even if you're off by 10% and you do 20 measurements, that can add up. That could be the difference between losing a pound of fat per week or a quarter of a pound of fat per week. So it really adds up. Be exact and use mass, the gram weight. So here's an example of setting macros. Suppose a 5'10", 175-pound man with 18% body fat is looking to cut weight and maintain muscle mass. His first step would be to estimate the number of calories he requires to maintain weight based on his resting metabolic rate and his training program or activity level. So for someone with his stats, I'd set his cutting calories at 2,500 calories. That's a good start, gives sufficient wiggle room later on in the cut. Then I'd compute his LBM, which turns out to be close to 145 pounds. Then I'd set his minimum macros, so I'd set protein at around 155 grams. He'd probably go higher, like 155 to 185 grams would be optimal. Fiber at 35 grams and fat at 75 grams. Probably go a little bit lower, 65 to 75 grams fat, but I want to go under 65. This comes out to 1,365 calories, which leaves 1,135 calories, which can be filled in with carbohydrates. And that comes out to about 285 grams. So his macros would be 155 grams protein, 75 grams fat, 285 grams carbs, and 35 grams fiber. So to reiterate what we went over before, he can consume anything he wants as long as he's consuming at least the amounts of set protein, fat, and fiber and doesn't exceed the carbs or calorie target. And as he loses fat, his macros will change a bit. And that's why Infinitrition handles automatically computing your optimal macros based on your goals and stats and history. So there's no need to reevaluate every time your weight or body fat changes. So in addition to macronutrients, there's these things called micronutrients. Macros determine the caloric value of foods. Micros don't contribute calories, but they do contribute to overall health, digestion, and essential bodily functions. Examples of micronutrients are minerals such as copper, iron, and zinc, as well as vitamins, your A and B complexes, and so on. As long as you're otherwise healthy, you don't really need to track micros like you track your macros. Since if you're taking a quality multivitamin and mixing in fruits and vegetables into your diet regularly, you'll exceed the daily recommended amounts. And then, although it's not a micronutrient, make sure to drink about half a gallon of water per 100 pounds of body weight. And that's a minimum. Most men should be drinking at least a gallon a day. The next question that's asked a lot is, are all calorie sources equal? And the answer to that's no. Each macro requires a particular amount of energy for digestion, absorption, and disposal. Carbs require around 5 to 15%. Your sugars are going to be on the low end of that, and then your grains are going to be on around 12 to 15%. Like brown rice, oatmeal, stuff like that takes more to digest than, say, a candy bar. Fats require around 5%, and protein requires 20 to 35%. All this together, this is called the thermic effect of food, or TEF, and this is why high protein diets are favored when someone's looking to lose weight. So for example, if someone consumes N calories on a high protein diet, it's going to be more effective for weight loss than a diet consisting of the same amount of calories but high carbohydrate or high fat. The next question that's asked a lot is, why do we set minimum protein, fat, and fiber but max carbohydrates? Put simply, carbs aren't essential. However, some carbs are necessary if you're weight training, and everyone should. So carbs are necessary, but they're not essential. Your body can still do everything it needs to do without carbs. Does it do it best without carbs? Not really. You do need a little bit, but not the 350 to 500 grams that you'll see a lot of sources recommend. It's closer to about 150 grams, and that's usually plenty. And this is all taken care of by the filling in the rest with carbs. So with our sample that we set before, his carbohydrates was set at 285 grams, which is completely fine and doable. Protein and dietary fats, however, are essential. If you lack in protein or dietary fat, you're going to see diminished performance and progress. If you're low on carbs, you might feel lethargic, but it's not going to change too much. You can just up your carbs and you'll be fine. Protein and fats, you're going to want to take far more seriously and make sure you hit the minimum targets. So this has been a basic primer on the philosophy of flexible dieting, which is used throughout Infinitrition. You can sign up today, and if you have any questions, you can email me or hit me up on Facebook.